and sit down.
Oh, so, and then you can have this one. And then there, that makes it where we can post at the same time again. And
Yeah.
cross-train.
Look, cross-train. Hey guys, it's Michaela again, and Gretchen is back, and we are going to do another tag, although all of these videos are not going to be tagged, just a lot of the first ones because they're easy to do, and they don't require a lot of reading in advance, which we don't have very much time to do right now, but
you may notice that our two first videos were in the same clothes, and these two videos are in the same clothes. That is because we need to schedule these things in advance. And they are hard for us to do.
Yeah, so tags are really easy, but we promise there will be other types of videos soon. If you don't know anything about us, you can find our blogs, which I will have linked down below. And like she just said, there is another video in tandem with this that will be hosted on her page, and this one will be hosted on my page, but they're both on the same YouTube channel, so if it's easier for you, just follow the YouTube channel. This is the Inside Out book tag, I believe, and I think they all have to do with like how we read, sort of, and like what we prefer in the books that we choose. And the first question is, do you read the inside flap / the back cover? Do you think that sometimes those are too much information or not enough information? I definitely have an opinion on blurbs because I know that recently the backs of books have stopped having like the stories or like some sort of summary, and it's just turned into like praise for the author or praise for this book, and it's like I don't care as much about that when I want to pick up a new book that I haven't heard of. I would rather hear more about what the book's about than the fact that some guy who writes a blog liked it. That doesn't mean so much to me unless it's somebody I trust, which is why we read blog posts and watch booktube videos, because it's somebody that you have some sort of relationship with, but these are like random people that I don't care about necessarily. They can be authors, which I guess you can trust, but not always.
I have a love-hate relationship with like the flaps or blurbs, because I agree, some of them I hate. I always need to know something about the book, so I hate when the back of it is just like, these are what all the people like say about it, but you know it's only going to be the favorable stuff, and they really are really vague, and it's really not fun. But because I read a lot of YA, it is important for me to be able to avoid tropes that I want to avoid, like love triangles. Check out the other video if you want to see me just like, Michaela had to hug me to calm me down with that. So I really don't like a lot, and there's a bunch of other tropes that I really just don't like. And so when I read the inside flap, obviously they promote things based on those tropes, and so it's very easy to see like, oh, you know, blah. But at the same time, sometimes they can be very misleading because they promote them on that, even if they have like a hint of a love triangle. So like Ray Carson's A Girl with Fire and Thorns, I almost didn't pick up. The only reason I picked it up was because Tamora Pierce told me so. And I love Tamora Pierce, and I was like, well, if she likes it, then it must be okay. But that hinted at a love triangle, and that's actually one of the best had a love triangles I've ever seen. Like the end of the book totally just like blows all your expectations out of the water, and I was like, I'm so glad I read this, but I might not have. And also like Taylor and I were just discussing, Taylor is our other person for our book club called Bibliomancy for Beginners, and we're doing the first weekend of October, we're doing Imbibliomancy, which is us doing books and alcohol. And we're doing The Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Lady Taylor, and he borrowed my copy, and he was like, oh, the one that I saw in Barnes & Noble had an inside, like, just played up the romance, but my copy, which is actually the ARC copy, has just on the back of it, like, two black handprints are appearing all around the world. And he's like, oh, this sounds so much better to me because it doesn't have the romance.
It's not even that it doesn't have the romance, because I was with him when we looked at that and we were like debating whether we were going to buy a copy or not. It didn't say anything at all about the world or anything. It was literally just the romance. It was like, there's like a boy and he's hot and this girl likes her. And I'm just like, why would I pick up this book if this is all that you have to tell me about it? I don't want it.
I mean, I've read the first part of this book. I didn't get very far, but what I did read, I mean, yes, there's a romance, but so the love-hate relationship.
With romances, but when the only thing you're talking about is the romance, I will say that I have come across flaps and back book covers that have spoiled things that I do feel are spoilers, but that's much less common than it is that it gets me intrigued in a book that I haven't heard about, which I think is really what that's supposed to do, is to get you to want to read it.
Yeah.
And that's important. And, like, I feel like maybe publishers work a little harder not to have spoils on the back of their books, but I'm not opposed to summaries or whatever.
Yeah.
On top of that, when you want to buy a new book, what form do you tend to grab, Gretchen?
Okay, so if it's a book that I really, 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 really want, hardcover is the only way to go. Usually if it's a series, all of my books are in hardcover, or maybe the first book is in paperback, and then I was like, wow, blah, 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 blah. Like my Harry Potters are like that. My first 4 are paperback, and the 5, 6, and 7 are hardcover. But so in that regard, it'll usually depend on how much I want the book. If I don't really want the book, if I don't want the book, I won't buy it. Because I don't get books illegally. I spend money for every book that I have because I believe in supporting authors.
Yep.
And so, but in that vein, I don't have a lot of money, so what I do choose to spend my money on is very important to me. So if I really, really need it, if I really, really want it, if I'm going to go home and I'm going to read it that second, I will buy the hardback. Otherwise,
go big or go home.
Yeah, go big or go home. Otherwise, I'll be like, well, I'm really interested in this book, but I'm not sure, so maybe I do have a Kindle, but I don't like to read on it, so I do prefer to get the paperback, if possible.
Yes, I would agree that if it's a book that I'm excited about and will be reading it right away, I will get it in hardcover, and that's mostly because that's what new books come as. Like, they are usually released as a hardcover, and again, I also have a Kindle, but I don't like reading on it unless I have to. Like, I just don't enjoy that experience as much as I enjoy reading. However, I would say that there are some stories that I feel I enjoy listening in audio better, and it's usually longer books. I have a hard time justifying holding longer books. I get bored with them kind of just because of, like, the weight and knowing that there's so much more to it, and those are books that I like in audio because I can get through the whole thing sort of throughout my day while I'm doing other stuff, and I don't have to feel guilty about spending all that time with it. Those are books that I tend to go for as audiobooks, but I'm not a big ebook person, and the only reason I would buy a book in paperback is if it's, like, been out for a long time and I want it and it's cheaper, because I don't, like, need to have a hardback unless all my other books are, like, I want books that I have to be similar to each other, so like series have to all be in the same type of form. So if I have the first one in hardback, I'm going to get the others in hardback. But if I have the first one in paperback, I might actually wait for them to come out in paperback. Yes? Do you know where everyone is? Probably at dinner. Okay. I'm not sure, though, because they haven't sold this. Okay. I took these suggestions. I'm glad. You sounded like the one that said don't die. Yeah. Yeah. Please don't die. Yeah. Yeah. More people better, Alice. Second time we got interrupted during my video, too. It's always doing my own video, so we get interrupted, guys. What was I saying? We want them to match. So, yes, I will wait for books to be out in paperback. Like, The Name of the Wind, I had in mass market paperback, so even, like, the really small one, I had to wait for The Wife and Fears to go into mass market paperback. And now I'm still waiting for The Slower Guard of Silent Things to become thing, which I listened to on audiobook, but that one I bought on audiobook because the author was reading it, and that is beautiful.
I wish I had more retention span for those. Like the Shadow Hunter Academy books that Cassandra Clare is putting out in conjunction with some other people are all being read by, like, these amazing people that I would love to, like, listen to the read, but I just can't listen.
I agree with that most of the time. It's if I'm doing menial tasks that it gets easier to do that. Like, driving is a really good place to listen to audiobooks, or, like, doing dishes, or, like, something where, like, your hands are busy, so you're, like, kind of focused on one thing and you can listen.
I did more of it when I was, like, in London and I had an hour commute.
Right.
Yeah, right now I'm just, like, I don't have that kind of downtime to, like, do things. I'm always, like, pretty much on the go.
I also like audiobooks before going to bed because it's like somebody's reading me a story. So, like, sometimes I'll, like, put my, like, thing on, like, half an hour timer, and it'll read me half an hour of the story. That's another good way if you want audiobooks, is right before bed, because then you don't have to, like, be awake with your eyes too. You can sort of just sit in the dark and listen. But you need, like, a good reader for those.
I basically just need to be convinced that I can spend money on the Shadow Hunter Academy.
Get them in audio.
I want them really bad. The third point is, while you read, do you write in your books?
Ooh, controversial.
Okay, people. We are English majors, so so when I'm just reading for fun, hell no, does nothing go in my books. And I have been told that in order to be a real and proper English major in my English books, I should write in them. Hell no! I literally will copy out passages out of my books into my notebook. I will not write in them. Maybe sometimes I will if they're more of like a textbooky thing, because that feels less sacred to me.
Yes.
But if I am holding a novel, which I often am because I'm an English student, I don't want to write in the damn thing. If I have bought it used, and there's already writing in there, maybe I will say, like, okay, it's already written in.
It's been highlighted,
But otherwise, all of my notes, page numbers, passages, it's in my notebook where my writing goes. Where my writing goes. I can't fold pages. I can't nothing. Yeah. No. Books are sacred, and usually I've spent a butt ton of money on them. I'm not gonna write in them, especially if I need to sell them back. Just saying.
Yeah, I say that I agree that I don't write in my books, and in fact, like, I don't like breaking the spines of my books. I don't like dog-eared corners, like you said. Like, they need to be pretty and perfect, and the only exception is textbooks. So, like, my Chinese textbook has writing in pen and highlighter all over it because I'm, like, associating and circling these characters and, like, all that stuff because it's, like, sort of meant to have notes on it. But a novel needs to be clean and pristine and perfect and sit on my shelf beautifully, and that's what I want. Even my English books for class, I don't write in them.
Even if I absolutely hate the book I'm reading for class, I will not write in it. Sacred object. Don't do
that. I didn't look this up, but we probably should look this up right now because the next one is our favorite first sentence. Do you know a favorite first sentence off the top of your head? I don't actually really think about first sentences very often.
Here's the funny thing. When you're in a writing class, they talk all the time about the importance of the first sentence, and I don't know if maybe it's just me as a person, but if I have already committed to a book, like I've read the blurb and I've liked it, I'm willing to give you a little bit more of my time than just the first sentence. I don't know, maybe it's because I know how hard that is to do. I do like, YA books that in the first sentence, or well, any books really, that in the first sentence can communicate that there is a fun, humorous, like, narrator, whether it's first person, third person, second person, whatever. So, like, there's humor in that, but, like, openings of books really aren't that important to me, as long as, like, I can tell that the writing is good. If in the opening of the novel the writing is terrible, then I'm like, okay, bye, I'm done, whatever, I'm out. But yeah, I think maybe it relates to the inside flat back cover thing, because if I've already committed to a book because of that, I'm willing to, because something is coming, something better, or something like coming up, so I'm willing to. It's also because I picked my books, so I don't know. I could give you like a ton of conclusions that really spoke to me, but first sentences, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I don't. I know that there have definitely been first sentences in my lifetime that I feel like are like really good hooks of like, okay, you got me. And there are a lot that are also very beautiful and well crafted first sentences, but I don't, like, that's not what will make me pick a book in any way. And it's not really what I remember out of books. So, like, there's a challenge that I've seen on YouTube where people will just read the first sentence of a book, and there's, like, people who can actually know what that book was based on its first sentence. I probably would lose every single time, even on the books that I really love, unless there was some sort of obvious thing, like a character name or something that would clue me in on what it was talking about. However, there is a Tumblr called novelfirstsentences.tumblr.com, and there are a bunch here that were, like, really pretty and I did like, but I don't have, like, a favorite one that I can be like, yeah.
And also, so many of my favorite quotes from books happen naturally in the middle of a beautiful scene or a beautiful moment, And because I feel like also the problem with the first sentence is that it's usually very forced and like trying to like put you directly somewhere, and it's just, again, some of them are very beautiful, but
this one kind of calls or resonates with me. The phone rang, and I just stared at it. Like, that resonates with me, but will I remember that later? Probably not. If I keep reading, I don't think that I'd ever stop reading after a bad first sentence. It usually takes a couple hundred pages.
Yeah, I have to be convinced that the writing is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially if I'm connecting to the story, because I do spend so much time, like, really looking at my books. So the next question is, if it matters whether the author is male or female.
Do you mean like I wouldn't buy a book because it's written by a dude? I don't think that that is a thing. Like, I wouldn't just go, oh, the author's male, never mind, I won't read this book.
I mean, I do admit that as a younger person looking at children's books, I was very skeptical of books written about girls that were written by men.
Okay.
But, like, I think that's mostly just because...
Like female protagonists written by men?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Although, the thing that happened was that I read Harry Potter, and J.K. Rowling wrote Harry so well. I was like, well, you know, I've just been dumb.
There is kind of a stigma, I guess, against men writing women. That's less so with women writing men. But I think that that's because there's more of a precedence for men writing women poorly than there is, because women are able to imagine men complex, so we're not necessarily all men can imagine all women complex.
We actually talked about this in our 8th episode of Nostalgia Junkie, if you'd like to hear us talk more about this, because we actually talked about that in relation to DJ Michaela and the character of Courtney in the Pendragon series.
Yes.
But I will say that I tend to read female authors simply because the books that I'm interested in are written by women and tend to have female protagonists. However, I actually do seek out books by male authors because something that's very important to me when I read is to be able to share my books with my brother, who likes to read, and he often, you know, the books that I like to read he isn't often into. So, like, S.J. Kincaid and his Insignia series was like, I actually, you know what? I'm not sure if that is male or female. I'm going to stop right there. I am automatically assuming that that person is a male because the protagonist is male.
Those letters usually mean that it's a lady girl who's trying to show that she could be a dude, possibly.
I am going to look this up. Hang on.
One moment.
Come on, baby.
This is a really good first sentence. Screw the bastards, said Larry Constantino in a whisper, touched with alarm. This is a really good first sentence.
Why would you not work? Go. It's a woman. It's a woman. Okay.
It's a woman.
So, I've done my research, and it turns out that S.J. Kincaid is a woman who writes young teenage boys very convincingly and with a lot of humor and interest. And I think that just proves my point, that I look more to protagonists, which is why I picked that up about my brother who liked it, because it was a boy protagonist. Less chance for romance, because he's not into that at all. But yeah, no, I mean, in terms of the author mattering it's male, female, or I can't tell, like, I automatically assumed that S.J. Kincaid was a male because of the male protagonist, but, I mean, that shows you, there's that saying that the thing you think first is the thing that you've been conditioned to think, and the thing you think second is the thing that you've learned. So, voila, improving learned behavior here. I should not have assumed that, and proving the point of that I've been trying to make very beautifully, if dumbly.
I think I would say that I read more male authors than female authors, actually. I'm the opposite of you, but I think that's because I feel like more often high literature and literary fiction is more often skewed towards men, which is a problem, I think, kind of with the publishing industry and also with, like, how we choose, like, what makes great literature. And I think that's a video that we can discuss on why so many female authors don't get chosen. I think part of it has to do with romance, and that if there is romance in a book, they sometimes often sort of get discredited as lesser.
Unless it's failed romance. Failed romance is a thing of high literature.
Or, like, I mean, not even sex, because all of my romance books are written by women, and they have a lot of sex in them, but it's a very different type of sex than the sex that's in high literature. Like, sex in high literature is, like, sad, painful. Nobody wants to have that.
High literature in general is sad and painful. Yeah. I like those themes.
Yeah, they do. It's true. But, like, so I would say that I would probably do the opposite of you in that I'm in a genre that is very firmly set with more male authors. So I do like to read female authors that do get put up that caliber level and say, this is a really great female author that's did this thing. So, yeah, I would say I do the opposite. But I don't think it matters to me whether they're male or female, really. I don't think that there's no point where I would automatically just discriminate against a book because of it, even if it's opposite protagonists. I don't think that I would.
I mean, not anymore. Yeah. That was the thing that, like, when I was, like, reading those, like, Becoming a Girl books, and they were written by dudes, and I was like, oh, that's kind of skeezy. But, you know.
Whatever. The next question is, do you ever read ahead?
You answer that first.
I do. I'm going to be probably the bad person here and say that I do read ahead. And it's not like I need to know that this character survives, so I'm going to read ahead. But we're doing a Nostalgia Junkie series. I've talked about it before, that when I was little, and even to this day, if there's multiple protagonists and I do not like one of them, I will skip that piece and go to the next one that I do like. Because I don't want to read that part, and I'm one of those people who is perfectly fine with never finishing a book if it means that I have to push through a character protagonist / thought process that I don't want to. Does it mean that I won't necessarily go back and read those pieces? I'll do that for the most part, especially if I enjoy the rest of the book and I want to know the missing pieces. But no, I definitely skip things or read ahead for that reason. But I'm not one of those anxious people who's like, oh God, does he die? Flip, flip, flip. Okay, no, he's okay. Now I can read about this terrible, tragic event and see what happens.
I'm one of those people. When it's not with all books. It's with series that I am desperately, desperately invested in. And I honestly, like, half the time when I do reading, I read so much that I honestly can't often tell which books I'm really, really into.
Right.
Unless I've been committed to the series for a while. And so when I, like, okay, pledge of honesty here, under oath, I just got the new Sarah J. Maas book, Queen of Shadows, and something was threatening to happen, and my anxiety, and I mean, like, I am in counseling for anxiety. I have bad anxiety, so my anxiety was so bad that I had to go, and I usually just read, like, the last page, and I just had to be able to see that it was just all going to be okay.
Yeah.
And yes, I have been spoiled by big reveals in that, like, I did do that to Veronica Roth's Allegiance. I did go and I did read the end of that before I had finished the book.
Ooh, that's bad. That's
do it. But the internet had suggested enough spoilers.
Oh,
that
it was
I was
already
like,
kind of spoiled.
Fuck. So yeah, I do that when I'm really interested in a series, just because my anxiety gets so bad. I honestly can't read. I can't keep going.
Yes.
If I don't know what's going to happen, and then once I know what's going to happen, that's why I reread books as well, because I also read, on a first read, I read very fast, just to know how everything, like, the major plot, and then I have to go back, and then I'm like, okay, now I can appreciate how funny this is, or something, and like, now it's all okay.
Because I know what happens, or even if it's bad, I know that it happens, and I can wait for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next question is debatable for me, but do you organize your bookcase, or is it unorganized? Is it chaos?
I have been moved around so many times in the last 4 years that I used to have my bookshelves organized mostly by series, but I would put my favorite series out on the bookshelf closest to my bed, and then you could tell which ones that I wasn't into reading at the moment by how far removed they were from me.
Right.
So no color coding, no author, anything like that. Because my bookshelf also had different size shelves, so I couldn't just put them anywhere I wanted. The big hardcover ones had to go on a certain shelf, so there really wasn't any room for that. But it was the ones that I would read. My favorite ones were closer to me, and now I've been in London. I've moved rooms in my own house. I've been here. So right now, the only organization on my bookshelves in my dorm or in my apartment is the fact that all the hardcovers are together and the paperbacks are together because I don't have any series with me besides Pendragon, but they're all hardcover. Yeah. And my books for pleasure are in one place and my books for school are in another. And that's the only organization I've managed.
I would say for me, aside from somebody who I get great anxiety when my books are out of order. They're not in an order that makes sense to anybody but me. My mom is very much a person who needs to have them alphabetical by author's last name. All of her books are organized like that, except for the ones that are tucked into closets and things like that, because she has so many books that they're just everywhere. Mm-hmm. My bookcase at home, that's my big bookcase, is organized by color, even with the series messed up, and I know a lot of people hate that, it bothers them that the series are separated, they're not next to each other.
That we live together too.
Yeah, I like the visual organization that organizing by color does, and that is a type of organization, but it's not an organization that a lot of really stressful people have. The thing that bothers me is when they're not flush face worth. So you know how some books are longer or shorter, mm-hmm. So when they get flush against the back, some are tucked mm-hmm. back farther. That's a thing that will bother me if there's not some other sort of visual representation. So I can ignore that when they're organized by color because there's color symmetry, but if they're scattered in and out in all different sizes, it really bothers me the way that they look. And that's also how I can tell when somebody's looked at one of my books, because it's slightly farther out than the rest of them, and I have to push it so that they're all flush. And that's the thing that bothers me, but that's not something the authors don't need to be in order. It doesn't need to be by genre. It doesn't need to be by series. I just really like a visual order, if that makes sense. So yes, my bookcases are organized by color, and if you want to see that, you can watch any of our videos over the summer because it's in the background behind me. It's very pretty. Yeah, it's great.
I don't have that kind of ability to do that.
My cousin gave me that bookcase because all I had was a really little bookcase, which was underneath my bed our freshman year, so she knows what that is. I only had that, and I had way more books. It was stacked and stacked and stacked on top of it. And he gave me that, and I immediately put all my books on it and then sent it to him. And he goes, "It looks like you organized that by color." And I said, "Gee, that's because I did."
Because I did. Imagine that.
Weird.
Although, talking about colors and covers, have you ever bought a book based on its cover alone?
Alone? No. Have I picked up a book based on its cover? Yes. But I then also have to read the flap or the back or a couple pages to know whether I will enjoy it or not. I don't think that I have ever, solely gone, this is a pretty book and so I'm buying it, despite the fact that I never plan on reading it because it could be gross.
I definitely, and I think there's actually a post on my blog about this from a while ago now, but, top 10 books that I picked up based on their cover. But I think picked up is the operative word. I'm the same way. There's definitely a lot of pretty covers that I've picked up, but I will put it back down if I don't believe the cover is deserving of the book. I think something that happened a lot when I was doing more of my ARC reviewing was that when you're looking through books, which definitely is when you're looking through books online, on their online catalogs, you see the cover first. So that I definitely did fall into that for a while, but at the same time, you can see a bit of the description, and I would also read that. And there were some books that had terrible covers that I would pick up. So I do like pretty covers.
I would say that I do prefer, if I'm going to buy something in physical copy, I will buy a prettier copy than an uglier one if there's one available to me, because I do care that my bookcases look nice and I want to own pretty things, and books are one of those things that I would like to have a pretty copy of, but I don't want to spend the money on something that I'm not going to read, so I wouldn't buy something unless I thought I was going to read it at some point, even if it's not right now.
Yeah, and I think some book covers, especially like when YA did like the book cover trends, it was like, this is pretty, but it's like whatever, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
I actually own prints of the new Throne of Glass covers. When they redid that after the first book came out, I literally like bought prints off Etsy of these book covers because they're so pretty. And like Jay Kristoff's Storm Dancers, like that's art. It's literal art on the page. And then some of it is like, you can use Photoshop.
Here is a girl's foot and her boot.
And here is her pretty half face.
Half face. Or out of focus girl in a very flowy dress in the wind.
Like, I actually refuse to pick up Julie Gagawa's Immortal Rules series in any kind of hard form because the first book came out and the main character is of Asian descent and the girl in the front was white.
That's so ridiculous.
And I refuse to pick it up. They redid the covers. The covers are now artsy and pretty and there's no person on them anymore. But I refuse to pick that up.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
All right. The last question, I think, is actually the tamest out of all of these for, like, kind of, like, controversial answers. And that's, do you read outside or do you have to keep your books inside?
I will read outside, but I don't like it. I don't like putting my books in dirty places. I don't like thinking that they're going to get dirt on them. I have 2 younger brothers, so also anytime that I'm outside is anytime danger, boys in danger. I mean, I'm not above roughhousing myself, so I don't know. Like if I'm out at the beach and like maybe I have a towel or something, but then I like panic because of sand.
Yeah.
And also like I don't like being like dirty. But that's not a thing.
I don't go outside because it's gross.
Yeah. I mean, and also, like I was saying before, not in this video, but I need quiet when I read, and outside is rarely ever quiet for the most part. So
I would say for me, similar paths. I don't often take my books outside. I will on vacation. So, like, when I'm in New Hampshire and we're, like, going down to the lake, I will bring my book down to the lake. I'm not going to sit, like, on the edge of the lake with my book, but I will sit, like, at a picnic table on the edge of the lake with my book. My argument is that I don't often go outside in general. Like, if I'm outside, there's a reason I'm outside. I'm probably moving from one place to another place. I'm not just outside for shits and giggles. I don't.
Michaela is one of the few people on this planet whom I am tanner than.
Yeah, it's partially because I'm ginger and I can't tan at all, and I have anxiety about being sunburnt, so, like, any amount of time where I have to sit outside is generally, like, how much longer until I turn lobster red? 5 minutes.
I do that too, though.
Yeah, but, like,
have
you ever been burnt so bad that you had, like, such giant blisters that you actually couldn't lie on your back because it hurt so much?
Yes.
I never wanted to have that happen again when that happened, but I did not want to be outside. I couldn't do it. So I
grew an exoskeleton.
Yeah, that's what I need. Gosh, why didn't you tell me that sooner? In any case, yes, similar reasons. I don't want to put my books in danger, so I'm not going to, like, put them next to water or mud or anything like that. If it's, like, a people-created outdoor space, like a park or something like that, I will go and I'll sit and I'll do that. And, like, outside on a deck, like on my grandparents' house's deck, I will sit in the chairs and read. But it's not, like, outside.
Yeah, I think it also depends, too, if I have to read on my Kindle or a paperback or, like, a hardcover. I'm more liable to take a physical book outside than my Kindle because...
danger.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
Yeah. I have one of the cheap Kindles, but I can't. I mean... I am a poor person.
Yeah.
I can't risk that being broken.
No.
So,
nope. Yeah, so same. And that concludes our 2, like, kind of unpopular-ish opinion-y tags. This one's the Inside Out one. We also did the unpopular opinions tag. But this was us sort of giving you an idea of, like, what type of readers we are, like, what we like and dislike about the books that we read and things like that. And I hope that you guys enjoyed, and we will be back soon. Maybe talking about a Man Booker book. Maybe talking about something else. I don't know, because we have to, like, get together and read things. It just takes so much time.
So much time.
Talk to you guys later.